And good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Mike, it's actually football night tonight on the Pete Mezzetti Show, and we're going to sit around and have a half-hour conversation with Steve Filippone, who is an assistant football coach at the Morgan School in Clinton.
Good to meet you. Well, not meet you, Pete. We've met many times.
Nice to meet me, Steve.
Coach Mezzetti. We've met you. I've met you many times.
I was going to say, Steve, I don't know you before.
No, we're
Let's
good.
see. Last time I knew it was
Saturday.
A bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich and a large coffee with cream and one Splenda.
True. Saturday morning. Saturday morning ritual.
It is the Saturday morning ritual, but like I said before, for our Saturday morning ritual, there's the third member of the ritual that's missing. They couldn't be with us this evening.
Yes,
but that's okay.
Our head guy, our leader,
the leader,
the big Kahuna.
Exactly.
The guy that we all look up to.
Literally
and figuratively.
Exactly.
Literally and figuratively.
So, Steve, tell us a little bit about your football career.
Well, I started playing football at a very young age, but probably I think I was 9.
Okay.
Played in a great football program in a place called Brick Township, New Jersey. There was a high school football coach there named Warren Wolf who coached our team for 52 years.
Wow.
Coached into his late 70s, early 80s. And renowned football coach, tremendous human being, great role model for me. And then I played football in high school and was I was recruited by Southern Connecticut, and at the time Southern Connecticut had terrific college football coaches, a guy named Paul Pasqualoni, who has coached at Syracuse, now coaches in the pros, was a UConn head coach for a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that name.
Yeah, George DeLeon, who has kind of traveled around with him, was his first assistant at Syracuse and UConn, and now is out at Baylor. And that's just to name 2. There were probably 4 other guys on that staff who were fabulous. So again, God just drops you in the right spot.
Absolutely.
And so I ended up learning from tremendous people at Southern, got a great education there, played football for 4 years. And then it was George DeLeon, actually, who called. Larry Ciotti called George DeLeon.
Okay.
And said, hey, I need a football coach, and he needs to be a special ed teacher. And that was what my degree was in, special education. And so and the story goes that George recommended my brother Dennis, my identical twin, first. But when Dennis said he didn't want the job, then I was the default guy.
There you go.
So it defaulted to me, and I got to go to Hand, where I got to coach for a high school football legend, Larry Ciotti, who has become my very closest friend in the world. And I got to coach with him for a decade. Okay. And learned a tremendous amount about high school football and coaching kids. And then when he retired in 1989, I took over. I feel like I was blessed by the opportunity to be the head football coach at Hand High School. Had a tremendous tradition already, having won 4 state championships and over 70% of their games when I took it over. So I always tell people, and I really honestly believe it in my heart, that I was just kind of a keeper of the flame, so to speak. Right. It was handed to me in great shape. My job was not to mess it up.
Exactly.
And I like to think that we didn't mess it up, that we took good care of it. I coached high school football at Hand as a head coach for 27 years. And it was it'll be 3 years ago that I retired from that position. I took a year off. Okay. Last year I coached at Wesleyan, which was a tremendous experience. Great kids, wonderful opportunity. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And the trip up to Middletown was a little too much, but the coaching and the kids were phenomenal, and to see great universities every weekend like Williams and Middlebury and places, Bates and places like that, it was just fabulous. But it was a little too much, and then, Pete, I'd always felt like Pete was a little behind the 8 ball in terms of assistants, He had a ton of my former players who were great guys, but he never really had somebody to work with him who was a seasoned kind of a coach, a guy who'd been around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've been around a lot. And so when the opportunity came, two things factored in. One, my deep respect, admiration, and really genuine affection for Pete.
Yeah.
And two, my desire to really desperately get back into coaching high school kids, because I think that's where I belong. I think I could coach on the college level and be very effective, but wouldn't be where my heart was.
When you were at Wesleyan, that means you know my friend John Reba.
I met Coach Reba once or twice because they were doing fall lacrosse, and of course Coach Reba couldn't coach them.
No.
But he was nearby in his perch watching them.
Absolutely.
So I was able to see him, and I've met him and spoke to him, and he's a fabulous human being.
Good guy. Matter of fact, he was here not long ago.
That's great. Couldn't have done much more at Wesleyan than he's done.
Oh, definitely
great
not.
Success.
Exactly. So what type of, this is a loaded question.
Sure.
What type of guy is Pete and I?
Pete and I.
well, Pete and I, we see every week.
Pete's a contradiction in many ways.
Yeah.
On one hand, he seems like he's kind of flighty, and you never know where he's going to be. He's always trying to without sounding negative, he tries to dominate the situation.
Right. Absolutely.
He's just a powerful personality.
Absolutely.
So that's one side, but the other side of him is a very introspective, very intelligent, bright person who is deeply concerned about young people, deeply concerned, and I can look at myself. I taught special education. I cared very much about my students, but I wasn't a big picture guy. I was a football coach, and a father, and a special ed teacher. And if something affected one of those three areas, I was eager to be involved. Pete thinks globally about young people. He thinks globally. He thinks in terms of the whole community of Clinton. Not just the football program or even just the high school, but the whole community.
Absolutely.
And so he's a very broad thinker. He believes that he can make a difference, and I believe he does make a difference. He's when I'm in trouble, or if I have trouble with my kids or anything else, Pete is always one of the first people I will call.
Absolutely.
And he's always there. He coached both my sons, and I would bet. Well, I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
We had my son Kevin, my youngest, just got married. Well, got married 3 years ago.
Okay.
We had a very limited guest list because it was in Delaware, and it was not going to be huge. And so I said to Kevin, who do you want to invite to the wedding outside of our family?
Right.
And the very first person he said was Pete and I. So I go into school the next day, and I say to Pete, Kevin wants you to be at his wedding. And Pete says, oh yeah, he called me on the phone and told me that before he said it to me. So
nice.
I was like, all right, good. That shows you where I am in the pecking order.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Pete, I want you to be at my wedding. I'm getting married. And down the line. But no, I mean, Pete is...
Pete's awesome.
He's just a special guy.
I've been with Pete since he started football at Morgan 5 years
I mean, I
ago.
consider myself a very lucky person to be around him.
Exactly. The first time,
very lucky.
couple months ago, the first time you and I ever met, I said to Pete, I'm like, what's Coach Filippone like? He was like, you'll see. It's like, you'll see. And from what I understand, Pete is still teaching.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, he teaches. What's he teach?
He's the director of he's the head of the social studies department at Hand.
Okay.
Teaches economics. Now, currently, he's teaching a world traveler course, which he loves, which is like talking about different traveling to Europe, traveling to Asia, and of course he's got his plane spotter thing going.
Oh yeah,
constantly.
I've seen the plane spotter.
Yeah, which is fabulous, and so yeah, no, I mean, ironically, you really could spend. I could spend many hours not recover the same thing twice.
Exactly.
Talking about Mr. Nye. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of football.
Yes.
Dave Mastriani.
Yes.
Who is he?
Dave Mastriani coached with me for a decade. He really is almost following exactly in my footsteps, except he's actually doing a better job, which is what every father wants for their son, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure Larry wanted me to do better than he did, and I tried my best to do that. And I think Dave wants to do better than me, and I want Dave to do better than me, and God knows he is. Dave coached with me for 10 years. He was a football player at Columbia. He's a Connecticut kid. He was our defensive coordinator for 10 years, and when I left the job 3 years ago, he was a great candidate and no-brainer for the job. And he's a teacher in the building. He's got a tight connection with kids, and he is an extraordinarily capable coach. So in his first year, they won a state championship. In his second year, they won a state championship.
All right.
They're currently undefeated and the #1 team in Connecticut. So
there you go.
I guess we picked a good guy to fill that position.
Exactly. And would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Oh, no.
All right. We'll be right back. And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Steve Filippone, assistant football coach for the Morgan School in Clinton.
Good to see
Coach
you again,
Phil, welcome
Peter.
back, my friend.
Yeah.
Welcome back. All right, so opening
here.
last segment, we were talking about Dave Mastriani and Steve Filippone and Pete and I.
Yeah.
Let's continue
quite a
conversation.
Crew that would be. Well, I didn't get to say about Dave. Dave is a father of 3 beautiful children. He's got a beautiful wife, Catherine. They live here in Clinton.
All right.
Not far from here.
All right.
And or not far from the high school.
Yeah.
And he's recently having to do battle with a form of cancer that we're not sure what it is right now. But he's had surgery. He's missed a couple games. Teams played incredibly well for him. And he's home. He's home from the hospital, and he's recovering, and we're sure he's going to be 100%. So, he's been through a lot, but his perspective is right.
Right.
And he's definitely the kind of person that I not only feel comfortable with the program that Larry and I worked through, but am totally confident that he's going to take it to another level.
Now, do you still talk to Dave?
Oh, every day.
Yeah. How's he feeling?
Every day. He's okay.
Good.
He's had major surgery, so he's going to be sore for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But, he wanted out of the hospital. He wanted back. I'm sure he's bending over a TV screen, breaking down film as we speak.
Probably.
So he's not going to let the work get ahead of him, ever. Nope. That's the one thing about David, is that, nobody is going to outwork him. And that's the mantra that I tried to teach him as an assistant. Right. That, the only thing I ever feared as a head football coach was that our team was going to get beat because I didn't do a good job of preparing them, because I hadn't done my homework. And that was something I went to bed fearful of every night that I was a head football coach. And it drove me to do the work. And Dave, I think, has a similar sense that, you know, teams are going to play and teams are going to lose. Sometimes the team you play against is just better than you, and there's not much you can do.
No, of course not.
But if you're well prepared, you certainly take away a lot of those mitigating factors. You know, your kids are going to play well.
Right.
If the other team's better than them, they're going to have less points, but they're not going to get beat. They might lose a game, but they're not going to get beat.
Absolutely.
And so that's the way I always felt. Dave's a great steward of the program, and I hope he stays around for 25 years like I did. And you know, I mean, that's the irony of it. Our program will be 50 years old at hand next year.
Okay.
And we've only had 3 coaches.
Who were they?
Larry Ciotti,
Yep.
me,
And Dave.
and David.
Wow.
Larry for 19 years, me for 27, and now Dave for 3. So when you have that kind of continuity, and I coached for Larry for 10 years.
Okay.
Dave coached for me for 10 years.
Right.
So there's total connection between all 3 levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What type of guy is Larry Ciotti like? Like I said to you off camera, I've never met Larry.
Oh.
If he walked into the room right now, I would have no idea.
Well, Larry's
like.
a cross between what you would think of as an elder statesman.
Okay.
Like you know, you might see him. I could see him walking up the aisle in the British Parliament or in Washington D.C.
Okay.
And he would be the kind of guy that would immediately command respect.
Right.
Because everything about him is dignified. Everything about him is strong and in the right place. Everything about what he does. He was a fabulous role model for me. Unbelievable. I couldn't even hope to be like him, honestly, in my life. And then there's this gruff old Italian guy that you would probably want to see in a Godfather movie out with the tomatoes, you know?
All right.
And he loves to smoke a cigar, and he loves to drink wine, and he loves to tell jokes and laugh and play golf and just have a great time. And at 73 years old, or 70, I think he's 75 years old now.
Oh, wow.
At 75 years old, he'd keep up with anybody. Anybody. I mean, he'd run circles around me. So he's a fabulous human being. I will introduce you to him one day soon.
I would love to meet Larry one of these days.
You'll get to meet him,
That'd
and you'll find out that everything I've said about him is true.
Speaking of everything you say about people, Eric Becker.
Awesome. Former football player, but so much more than that to me.
I believe Coginchaug coach?
Coginchaug head football coach. I mean, I've spun off now. I have 3 head coaches that played for me. Pete and Morgan. Eric at Coginchaug, and a guy who coached at Morgan for quite a while, Tommy Drew, who's now at Foreign High School. So I'm really proud of that.
Okay.
I'm totally proud that there were guys, in spite of me, who wanted to go out and coach high school kids, and those 3 are doing a fabulous job. Eric is a dear friend, a confidant.
Okay.
You know, you'd think somebody that much younger than me wouldn't be a confidant. Eric is my go-to on so many things because he's level-headed, he's bright, he's empathetic. He knows me so well. Yeah. I don't honestly look forward to playing Coginchaug because, but I know one thing for sure, win or lose, when the game is over, Eric will believe that the fact that we got to compete, that we got to compete against one another, was a great thing because he believes in competition, he believes in preparation, and he believes in relationships above everything else. And our relationship is built around so many things more than winning a football game that the outcome of the game will be irrelevant.
I was going to say, I met Eric when we played Coginchaug last year with Pete. I was on the sidelines with Pete.
So proud.
What a cool guy.
I'm so proud of all 3 of them, really.
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of them all.
And what do you do? You still, obviously, you're still in the educational background these years.
I retired let's see. I retired, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 years ago.
Okay.
6 years ago. I took 1 year off. I had 35 years in, and they had a buyout.
Yep.
And they bought me 3 years, so I got the 47 and a half, which is the most you can get in Connecticut. So, I would have been going to work for a few $1,000s a year. So I decided to retire.
Okay.
I stayed out of work but continued to coach for 2 years and was bored to death. I'm not the kind of guy who can stand around.
No, me either.
I'm not. I can only read a book for so long. I can only exercise for so long. I don't know how to. I really don't know how to relax. I've never learned how to relax. Not eager to learn how to relax, but I'm going to have to someday, or I'm going to burn out. And so I took 2 years coaching, but no school. And then in the third year, a position opened at the high school. We have 3 security positions at the high school that are non-police related. So. I'd always thought that it would be a fun job to have because really what you're doing is interacting with kids and teachers and administrators. Right. It's kind of like being a police officer in that, 80% of your time is spent on really positive stuff, having a good time with kids and enjoying your work. And then there's that 20% that's not so much fun when you got to deliver bad news to a kid or something like that. But so I really enjoy the job. I'm thankful to the Madison Board of Ed for bringing me back in.
Absolutely.
And as of next year, I'm really proud to say that I will have served the Madison Board of Ed for 40 years.
Wow.
And all in one place. So, I got out of college, basically came straight to hand, and I never left.
No.
Except to come to Morgan.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
And to go to Wesleyan.
There you go.
So Wesleyan and Morgan in between.
And you get to hang out with Pete and I all day.
Yeah, that's it. Both at work and it's like a marriage.
It's like a comedy routine.
Yeah,
you might say.
Yeah, it is. Pete entertains everybody, not just me. I'm just one of the minions who flock to him. But yeah, it's the Han High School, and again, I don't know much about Morgan School.
Yeah.
Han High School is a magnificent place with magnificent teachers, great kids.
I was going to say, I've never walked through those halls, but maybe one of these days.
It's a very cool environment where students are highly motivated by each other.
Yeah.
In the classroom, in the hallways, on the athletic fields, and the results of that level of competition among them in terms of wanting to do well is what drives our high school forward the way it does in terms of our success in athletics, our success in in the arts, our success in the classroom. So I'm really fortunate. I couldn't imagine that I would have been able to spend had my career spent in a better place than where I ended up. So
sounds like an awesome place.
It is. It's a great place, and I was lucky to be there. So.
Definitely. Now, who are some of Dave Mastriani's assistant coaches who are taking the helm while?
Well, he's got a bunch. Mike DeVito, who was the head coach at Amity Regional for a number of years, fabulous football coach, came on to kind of just wind down his career, and it ends up he's holding down the fort for Dave for these 3 or 4 weeks. Paul Philpott is a guy who lives in Clinton as well, and Paul was with me for a number of years and has been with Dave, and he's running their defense. And you got kids like Mike Davis and Danny Ives that played for us. I could go down the list. He's got it's not like us.
It's not like us.
Me, you, Pete, and Alex. That's 4. Oh, and
5.
Coach Furch.
Yeah.
It's not like us.
It's not like 5.
Yeah, he's got 15, I'll bet.
Oh.
And he's got a coach for every position on both sides of the ball.
All right.
But you know what? That's what happens when you are winning state championships and you have a great program. People want to come and they want to be part of it.
They want,
So he's got lots of great coaches, great coaches who I think one day some of them have been head coaches. A bunch of them probably will spin off and become head coaches someday. And it's just, like I said, it's just a product of wanting to learn from Dave and wanting to be part of something really special.
Exactly.
So that's what we want to do at the Morgan School.
That's right.
We want to get that program to where it's something special, where it's very meaningful to kids, and it's very meaningful to the alumni and people around, and they want to say, hey, we want to come and we want to be part of something really great, so we want to help out there. We want kids to come out, But Pete made a good point to me the other day, Pete. Pete and I made a good point.
Yeah.
We were talking about the number of student athletes that we have, and it's not a huge number, but it's around 40.
Right.
And there are only, I think, 230 boys in the school.
Something like that.
So that's nearly a quarter of the boys in the school.
Right.
Hand has 500 boys in the school.
Okay.
So that would be the equivalent of us having 110 kids on the football team.
Right, exactly.
And we have 55. So, in other words, if you look at it really statistically, the Morgan School is doing a better job of getting kids out than Hand is.
Right.
And so they're to be commended for that. And if we can get 40, maybe we can get 50, because I'm sure there are some guys walking the hallways over there at Morgan that could help us tremendously.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's our job as coaches to get them out and get them out to play. And hopefully by this time next year, we'll have a lot more good football players. We have some great ones now, but
we
we'll
do.
We've got some great kids, a lot of young kids who will be around next year and will take what they've learned this year and put it to good use next season.
Steve Filippone, we're out of time. Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Peter, it was a pleasure. Anytime.
On behalf of Steve Filippone, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. We'll see you next time.